What happened in the month of August in Edmonton's real estate market? Well, you're in luck. In this video, we're going to talk all about that, and we're going to start right now. So in this video, I'm talking to you in September, because obviously I don't have a crystal ball and didn't film this video beforehand, but it is cold and it is fall. A few days ago it was 30 degrees, so August ended up being quite warm even into September. And why do I tell you the weather? Because if you've been watching me on my weekly videos, that is actually a factor in how our real estate market plays out in terms of motivation. People want to move in before it gets really cold, when the dreaded four-letter S word starts to fall, which actually is going to be pretty soon, likely. And there's also, when it's warm, people just tend to want to go out on holidays. So weather is important. Now, August was a good month, and August is typically a quieter month because people are going on holidays, getting that last vacation in before school starts. Now, they're also trying to get in August and settle in before school starts. But if you were to have bought a house and wanted to have all that settled, likely you would have purchased in the earlier months in May, June, maybe even July. But in August, those August sales are typically closing at least 60 days. Usually it's a fast possession if you're closing in August and doing in September. So people tend to see a slowdown in August. So let's dive into the numbers. So when you look at the new listings that came onto the market in the Edmonton area, there were a decrease from month over month, but there was an increase from last year at this time. So our market this year still has more listings than it did last year, which isn't saying a whole lot because there isn't a whole lot of listings on the market if you have been looking and keeping an eye on the real estate market. The overall inventory in Edmonton is just over 4,000, and that is including condominiumized and single family. So if you've been following me on Tuesdays when I go live, you could think to yourself, okay, you just told me on Tuesday there's just over 2,900 single family listings. So if you do the math, you can see that the ratio between what is for sale currently with condos and single family, the single family is starting to be a little bit more, versus earlier this year, we actually had almost a 50-50 in terms of what was available for sale in terms of condos and single family homes. If you take a look at the number of sales that happened last month in August, well, you're gonna see that month over month, we actually saw a decrease. So we saw less sales in August than we did in July. No big surprise, like I mentioned earlier. The market starts to slow down a little bit. People aren't buying as much, but people obviously are still buying. And compared to last year, they're buying more than they did last year at this time. So we saw an overall increase of 11% over last year's sales. And that is part of the reason is probably because the interest rates are not as atrocious as last year. However, the interest rates haven't dropped massively, they just have actually seen a drop. And we did just recently see a drop in September. So that was after when these sales actually happened. So it is interesting because people have obviously realized this is just the new reality. We aren't gonna have those sub 2%, sub 3% interest rates, and everyone needs a place to live. And if you can afford to live in a home, why not pay for your own mortgage versus rent? And you have to understand, maybe you need to buy a starter home versus your dream home as your first house, which 5-6 years ago, the market was so incredibly easy for any first-time home buyer to get in, to grab their first dream home right away, that it's hard for the new first-time home buyers to understand the new reality. And it's starting to become more and more real right now. So what do I mean by that when it comes to they got to get their average home? Well, let's take a look at the average price for single family homes. We're sitting at $528,000, and that is significantly higher than it was 5-6 years ago. It used to be under 500,000, like 480, 5-6 years ago. So you can see that, you think, oh, Melody, that's not a huge price difference. But it really is, because even when I take a look at the new build homes, which is not included in these stats, to buy a front attached garage home, like the double garage in the front, and a 2,000 square foot brand new build, you're looking at the 500s or 600s. Typically, that's what, if you're building from scratch, you're for sure paying over 600,000. You could have done that for 500,000 5-6 years ago. So it is a big difference in terms of what you're seeing today and what you're seeing now. Now, are you thinking, oh, if I buy a house now, in 5 years, I'm gonna have a 100K increase in equity? Whoa, put the brakes on that one. We don't know what is going to happen, and Edmonton typically grows at a much slower, consistent rate. We are steady Eddie, 1 to 3% increase. This year, however, you're seeing the increase go up quite a bit. For example, the single family home average price I just told you at $528,000, we are sitting at 7% increase from last year, which is significant. And we are now in the last part of the year. So typically what I saw in the past is that the last half of the year slows down quite a bit and it brings down that number just slightly. So we might be seeing an overall increase of 6%, maybe even 5%, if the market continues to slow down. But right now, currently, the market's still moving pretty quick. Houses are still coming on the market and moving quickly. So that means their prices aren't coming down that significantly. So how fast are houses coming off the market? The average days on market is still a lot quicker than it was last year at this time. We're sitting just over 30, and last year we were sitting over 40 days on market. So that's pretty quick still for August, and we might see that number increase in September and October and November. However, it has been pretty consistent this entire year in and around this mark. If you take a look at all of the different types of properties, average days on market, you look at the detached, that's what we just talked about. Semi-detached, last year at this time was taking a lot longer and it's moving much quicker this year. The row townhouses and the condominiums, you can see that differential, and all residential. That's because condos and townhouses, they are actually moving a lot quicker this year. And why may that be? The average price, because it went up, the affordability is a little harder, so now people are moving to the next product available, which then is this product. So they predicted that in January, and of course, there was no huge prediction. It's pretty obvious if someone can't afford to buy this and they need to move and live somewhere, they're gonna have to buy this. So that's why the pressure has gone downwards. The most popular price I see still are people wanting to spend just in that 500 range. They're not wanting to necessarily go to 600. But 500 is the comfort range, and what I see a lot of. I do see a lot of people request for 400,000 price point as well too, but that's a different type of home. So that 400-500 price point is still quite popular. If you've been following along, it used to be 300,000 to 500,000 is the most popular, and there is definitely still a demand, the 300-500. However, the 300,000 to 400,000 price point of a single family home isn't necessarily that home that is move-in ready. It may be in an older area, and if it's going to be new, it's definitely not going to be in that price point. The townhouses with no condo fees are in the high 300s now, or low 400s. They're no longer in the low 300s like they used to be. So that's what's happened in the month of August. Make sure to tune in every week on Tuesday when we come live and talk to you about what's happening week to week. But this is your overall monthly forecast, and we will be back to talk about all that happened in September.